Ladies and gentlemen, put on your dancing shoes and get ready for a whirlwind tour of entrepreneurship, marketing brilliance, and yes, a touch of showbiz flair. Introducing the effervescent Nicole Donnelly, a fourth generation entrepreneur, supermom, and a power packed force in the world of small business manufacturing. From belting out show tunes in her living room to transforming business blunders into blessings, Nicole's passion for storytelling and innovation knows no bounds. As the founder of DMG Digital, Nicole's mission is to accelerate the growth of small manufacturers and help them outteach the competition. Want to boost your online presence? She's got the zest and the zest know-how. With her crooked pinkies tapping on the keyboard, Nicole brings 20 years of experience managing accounts from small to medium businesses to the Fortune 500, increasing profits fourfold and building digital marketing strategies that sparkle like her love for musical theater. Tune in to her very own podcast, Tales of Misadventure, where she dishes out tales of entrepreneurial mishaps and triumphs. Like her ability to turn lemons into lemonade, Nicole's insights are a refreshing take on business, marketing, and life. When she's not dazzling the digital world or dancing with her beautiful girls, Nicole's exploring the globe, volunteering, or indulging in her love for laughter, oysters, and homemade pie. So get ready to groove to the rhythm of creativity, wisdom, and unending energy as we welcome the most effervescent guest ever to grace a manufacturing culture podcast, the incredible Nicole Donnelly. Hello, Nicole. Welcome to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. How are you doing today?
Oh my gosh. Hello, Jim. I gotta say, I've been on quite a few podcasts and I have yet to have quite an intro like that. That was incredible. Bravo. I don't know if I
Thank
live
you.
up. You totally outdid me with the theatrical. I don't know if I can live up to that effervescence and theatricality. That, me singing out, show tunes in my living room. I don't think that could compare with what you just did. That was amazing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm taking a virtual bow here and excited to have a conversation with you today.
Yes. Me
Thank
too.
you. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for being you and being on the podcast. We've got a lot to talk about. You've been in the industry for almost 20 years now, I guess. And you've done some pretty cool things with the marketing transformation for small to medium sized manufacturers. So, Nicole, let's start off. Tell us about DMG Digital. How many employees do you have? What do you all do? What makes you different than the other marketing agencies out there?
Oh, great question. Yes. So I founded this company right before COVID. Literally, I remember I registered for my LLC. I think it was February of 2020.
No kidding.
And and then COVID hit. And I'm gonna tell you, I was like for a month, I was like, what? Was this really the right move? I don't know. It was very weird. It was a dicey time. But when I
Yeah.
started my company, I was blessed because basically what I did is I was working in-house as a marketing manager for an industrial manufacturer.
Okay.
And we had had just tremendous success, and loved it so much. I was like, "Man, I would really, really love to take some of these same strategies and help other small businesses build out their marketing departments." Because as I'm sure you know, Jim, so many of these small companies have like little to zero marketing presence
Oh,
whatsoever. They've built their business based on word of mouth and
absolutely.
referrals, and they've woken up and they're like, "Gee, we can't keep up with our competition unless we do this digital marketing thing," right?
Right.
And so it was really exciting to see that transformation happen in this business and see, them, adopt a new CRM, invest in marketing automation, really put together an awesome marketing strategy and invest in inbound and video marketing and blogging and all of that and just see the impact that it had. I was like, "Man, this is so fun. I just want to help other companies do this." So I actually was approached by a previous employer while I was thinking about this, Jim. And I was like,
Okay.
if this is not a sign, then I don't know what is. So I approached my my employer at the time and said, "Can I take you on as a client?" And they graciously said yes. And so when I started my company, I had 2 clients. So that I think I was really lucky in that regard. So even though COVID hit, I was like, "Well, I've got my 2 clients, I've got
Absolutely.
work. It's
That's a
great."
win.
That was a win. And so, basically, I started out doing fractional work. And as you know, in entrepreneurship, I feel like you're always pivot. There's always a pivot that needs to happen, right?
Yeah.
So I was doing fractional work for quite a while, and I realized I wanted to scale this business. I didn't want it to just be a lifestyle business. I was
Yeah.
like, I really want to scale this. And if you're in the fractional world, you know that it is very difficult to scale a fractional business because you just simply do not have the brain power to
Yeah.
understand these companies as deeply as you need to be able to. And so anyways, I had to make a pivot. And so we rebranded the company to DMG Digital almost a year ago now.
Okay. Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, very exciting. And since that time, we've really niched down and we're really focusing on helping small business manufacturers with their content marketing
Awesome.
and with HubSpot management. So I'm a
Okay.
HubSpot partner. We love HubSpot. We've implemented it for many of our clients and manage it for them. And so that's what we do. We have this process where we basically love subject matter experts. And every manufacturing company has these magical, we call them SMEs, these magical SMEs that have been working in these businesses for sometimes decades. And
Yeah.
they have so much technical knowledge and nobody knows about it outside the company unless you're, an existing customer.
Yep.
And so it's really been very exciting for us to just really celebrate these SMEs and really put them at the front and center of their marketing so that we're interviewing their subject matter experts and bringing all that amazing knowledge and that they've learned all through their careers and really putting it out there to help educate potential prospects and customers. So we call it our content engine and we interview the subject matter experts. We say, give us an hour of your time. We're going to give you a month's worth of very rich content and distribute it for you. So we create blogs, videos, both shorts and longer videos, and then social media posts. And that's our content engine. And that's
Wow.
so we love it. It's super fun. Our team is hybrid. And so when I decided I wanted to scale this company, I really intentionally said, I'd really love to work with contractors as much as possible, just because from a business perspective, there's less overhead,
Yeah.
less
Absolutely.
risk. And so we have a hybrid team. So we have a total of 3 employees, and then we have a team of contractors that we work with who are specialists. But it's amazing, Jim, because it doesn't feel, sometimes you think of contractors as like separate, they're kind of like on their own.
Yeah.
Our contractors are very integrated with our team. Like it's almost like they're employees. It's so weird to say. Like we're just kind of like very, very they're all integrated. So yeah, we've got 3 employees and then I'd say, geez, like four contractors that we work with regularly.
Wow. Okay.
So
Good for
yeah.
you.
So
That's awesome.
yeah, yeah. So it's been really fun and exciting to be able to kind of build this hodgepodge team and and they all bring such unique talents, and we're just so blessed and lucky that they have such unique gifts and talents, all of them. So yeah, so that's what we do every day, and I
And
love it.
we'll dive a little bit more into
Yeah.
that the HubSpot part and your approach with your clients, because I'm very intrigued by that, and how that kind of digitalization of marketing really helps the culture, right, of your clients. So we'll dive into that in a little bit. But I want to talk more about your story. Nicole, in the manufacturing industry, you've been in the industry almost 20 years now. Um, Talk to us about where the culture was when you started, and how has it progressed to the present day in your journey in the industry.
Oh, that's a great question. So, geesh, I mean, my experience has been a lot in purely the marketing side of things. So I can definitely speak to that. Like, what has the
Yeah.
culture been like with marketing, specifically with manufacturers when I first started to where it's at now? And I will say, when I first started in this industry, marketing was just very archaic. It was, or non existent.
Hmm.
So, at least for the company that I worked for, they were working out of a very just it was act. So it was, not,
Oh,
on premise, terrible, and literally just inside sales, outbound cold calling was basically what they were doing. There was no marketing.
sure.
There was zilch,
Yeah.
not really anything. And so I think, what I've seen shifting in the culture now with manufacturers is manufacturers have always been a little bit of laggards when it comes to marketing. Let's be honest. They're kind of
Okay.
always very traditional
Yep.
in terms of, and a little bit hesitant to new ideas. They're very
No, you don't say.
they're very this is the way we've always done things. This is what's worked for us. Change is always a bit of a challenge,
Which is amazing to me, Nicole, because these are the same people who will go to IMTS and see new processes to remove metal and
Yeah.
spend millions of dollars on a new machine, which I can appreciate and good for them, right? But when it
Yeah.
comes to marketing, when it comes to people strategies, culture, right? It is that old school train of thought a little bit, right?
Oh, so true. I think it's because it's an industry dominated by engineers, you know, and there's nothing like the I love engineers. I don't want this to sound in any way, but like
No,
engineers by nature are just they're very traditional. They're not very open to change. They're very logical. There's a resistance there to anything that would be considered new
yeah,
or different. And there's good in that. There's absolutely good in that. And there's a reason why engineers make the manufacturing world go round.
absolutely.
But if you can like tap into those engineers and help them see and understand the value of marketing and the importance of them getting their knowledge out there, like I said, with these SMEs, oh, companies who can embrace that, who can really like their engineers get it and see it and can get excited about it.
Yeah.
Geez, the opportunities for growth are just endless when they can just open up their minds to the possibilities there and actually see the larger picture of, hey, besides just designing this equipment, how you know what I mean? Like
I
it's
do.
just
Yeah.
it's
Well,
so
and I mean,
and happy
this is
content.
an industry that forever, their idea of marketing was a single web page, not a website, single web page with a list of their machines
Yeah.
and a list of their capabilities and some contact information, right? So to change that idea, it takes a lot of change management
Oh,
on your part.
you are not kidding. Change management. I would say that is the hardest part of my job. The
Really?
hardest part is the change management aspect of it. It's getting the stakeholders to self-discover for themselves rather than me telling them
Uh,
that this change is gonna help their company grow and get to the next level that they want it to, because they all want to. They all
yeah.
come and they say, "I want more leads, I want more business." Well, great. What do you wanna change to get there? Something's gotta change. Isn't that like so much of the "I want more leads, but I wanna do it the way that I've always done it." Well, that's clearly not working. So,
Isn't that
you're
the
gonna have to
definition of
change
insanity?
something. Right. Like, so what are you willing to change in order to get there, right?
Mhm.
So it definitely is a process. You absolutely need buy-in from the top, and they need to be bought into it. And there needs to be alignment among all of the departments, all of the
Sure.
departments. We talk a lot about sales and marketing alignment. That's important. But even on the operations side and the customer success side,
Yeah.
in order for it to really hum and really work, you need stakeholders from every division to be involved, to be a part of it, in all of it, and accountable to all of it, and show them the respect. Like when we're talking about culture, and I just really feel the more that you can involve your departments in the decision making process, and they're a part of it, it's just you're going to get to such a better result than if you just create something and then just say, "Okay, this is what we're doing. Go execute it."
Here's my vision, go do
Yeah.
it.
Yes, exactly. So I will say, yeah, I will say I've seen a shift now where before there was a lot more resistance to digital marketing and to this. Now there's certainly less resistance. People are coming to us now and saying, "Sheesh, this word of mouth referral thing, it's not working as well as it used to." And
Yeah.
our competitors are getting ahead of us And how do we show up in search? Our competitors are outranking us. And, what do we need to do? We've built our business based on a reputation. And, how do we let more people know about our amazing reputation?
Yeah.
So I think they're catching up. They're catching up. They're recognizing that something needs to change. But it's always hard. Change
Yeah.
management's always hard.
Oh, it's sometimes and without a doubt, the most difficult part of my consulting business is that change management and talking to people who have, retention rates or turnover rates of
Well,
50 to 60%, but yet they don't think that they need to change the way that they're doing business to retain people when they've quite literally I have this prospect that I'm working and I'm not going to name any names, but they have 64% turnover rate. They have a
mhm,
new class of new hires starting every Monday for like the last 20 years,
mhm,
and they're in a medium-sized city,
mhm,
and they're starting to get people applying that didn't work out 15 years ago, 10 years ago, and yet they continue doing the things the same way and are complaining that they can't find the right people. So I it's wild to me, and so I get completely what you're saying. Um,
Yeah, it's almost like I think a lot of this has to do with I'm a huge fan of this book by Daniel Coyle. It's called The Culture Code. And what I love about his approach is that in order for you to really like cultivate a positive culture, you have to lead with some vulnerability and some
Absolutely.
humility, right?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
if you are a manufacturer and you see that, sheesh, we have a high turnover rate. I've seen situations where they will automatically say, well, we're just not hiring it's the people that's the problem. These
Right.
people, they're just not living up. Instead of having the humility to look inward at the leadership and say, well, what is it that's creating this high turnover rate? What do we need to change with our process?
Yeah.
What do we need to change with our training? What is it that we're not doing to create an environment where these people are thriving? Because
Exactly.
I think is like ultimately where great culture starts from, is just having a mindset of just utter humility. And I think in marketing, we talk about this a lot. The key to great marketing is really understanding your customer really well, understanding your audience really well,
Sure.
having the humility to recognize that you don't know all of the answers to what these customers need or want. You have to ask them. You can't make assumptions. I mean, that is like great marketing,
Absolutely.
times
Yes.
10. And
Yeah.
it's the same with culture.
It
You have
is.
to take the time to talk to your people and ask them and, do an assessment with them, a needs assessment to see what do they need to succeed in their job and really listen.
Yeah.
And, I think that's, I can't tell you how much of the time, Jim, that it's just not happening. Like, it's like,
Yes.
I don't, I've worked for organizations where you can just see that the culture is struggling, and when the employees are backbiting behind leadership, and leadership just has no idea and they're not even comfortable enough to share,
Yeah.
and leadership's not asking, and then there's this disconnect, and it's like, can't we all just come together and have a conversation about this, and
Yeah.
maybe we could make some things happen.
Absolutely. And you talked earlier about alignment when it comes to the values when it comes to marketing, and again, just like you said, that's all culture is, right? A good culture. To me, there's really no such thing as a bad culture. Some places have toxic cultures, but that's because there's a complete misalignment of values, right, between the organization and the employees. When you have that
Mhm.
alignment, that's when you have a healthy culture. And it sounds like that's somewhat similar to marketing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. That's really true.
What may be a horrible culture to you within an organization may fit somebody else. and what they value out of a workplace, right? They may like, you know, back channel politics. They may value that, right? And so a company that does that or has that as one of their cultural and value norms, they would fit very well in there, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Really good point.
yeah, so to me, there's no really bad culture. It's just misalignment of values. And when you get to that level where you're aligning, that's when healthy culture exists. So I'm hearing a lot of correlations and connection between your world and the world of culture. Have you ever or can you, in the years that you've been doing this, and you don't have to name any names if you don't want, but can you name or can you tell us some experiences you've had where either clients of DMG just had such a rough culture that it was hard to align the marketing vision that you had imagined?
Yes, I've actually had to walk away from clients.
Ooh, tell me more.
Yeah. Well, one client in particular, it was very painful, but yes, definitely. Um, this was a situation where, and this actually was this example is not in manufacturing, but I think it's completely relevant. This was a client of
Absolutely.
ours that absolutely was out of manufacturing. But what happened is we were brought in to help put together a marketing strategy and implement on that strategy for this organization.
Mhm.
And initially, what happened immediately from the get go is that any suggestions that we made were met with distrust and a lack of openness to what we had suggested.
Wow.
And so, there were several conversations where, we had made recommendations on, for example, how to handle their social media strategy. And they wanted to put together, they were in business for 20 years at the time, I think, and they wanted to do a 20-year anniversary campaign. And so my social media strategist, and we brainstormed and the idea was, let's talk about your customers. Let's share their success stories.
Yeah,
Let's talk about how you have helped them win, right?
absolutely.
Massive humility, put the spotlight on the customer, let's
Yep.
share their stories, and it was met with resistance. "No, no, we don't wanna do that, we wanna talk about what we're doing next."
Oh my gosh.
We wanna talk about what we're doing next, and so respectfully, we, went back to the table and we, revised everything, we pushed back as respectfully as I could and said, "It feels like there's a lack of trust here in what we're recommending to you." Had to have that difficult conversation,
Yeah.
which is never pleasant. But, as agencies, you have to challenge your clients when they're, in those situations. I've learned that in order for you to really get the results you want for your clients, you have to be willing to stand up and say, "Hey, wait a second,
Yeah.
this is what we're recommending to you. And it feels like there's a lack of trust. And if there's not trust, it's not going to work."
Yeah.
So we had to have those conversations, and basically there were three strikes, Jim, three strikes. And at the point where we were like, if you're not willing to trust us to do this work,
Yeah.
then, you know, then we're basically handcuffed. We're not going to be able to get you the results that you want because you're not trusting us to use our expertise.
Absolutely.
Within that organization, there was some culture issues where there was, you know, let's just say the idea that the certain people on the leadership team were kind of like shutting down or stonewalling other people on their team internally in meetings, if that makes sense, and just kind of like dictating how things needed to be done.
Yeah.
And rather than kind of listening and trying to engage even people within their own team, it was very much a very top down, this is what I want to do, and this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. And when you have a culture like that, it's very difficult to create a change if there's not a willingness to embrace and accept the ideas, collaboration from other people on the team.
Yeah.
So that was a really difficult and painful decision. It was a really great account for us, and the thing here's the other part of it is that it was impacting the culture on my team because my team was feeling the lack of trust. They were running around like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to, you know, make this client happy and who was never going to be satisfied, and it was impacting their mental health. And so as the leader, I was like, you know what? At the end of the day, my biggest responsibility is to my team. And I
Yeah,
know that may be controversial to people, but I firmly believe that if you are respectful to your team, you trust them, you create an environment for them to, thrive and grow and succeed, they are going to be deliver over and above to your clients what you could even ever have imagined. And so from
absolutely.
my perspective, if I have a client who's toxic, who is treating my team in such a way that I would not want them to be treated, and they're in an environment where there's not trust, I have to shut that down.
Yeah.
Like the money is not worth it to me if my team is going to be impacted. So it was really hard. I was like, man, this is good money. you know, I'm not, I've been in business, not like I'm going to be in my fourth year soon. So it's not like I'm this, I'm not this established company yet, Jim. And it was good money, and
Yeah.
it was a hard decision. I lost sleep over it. But once I made that decision and made that phone call, and it was painful and it felt awful and it was uncomfortable. And of course, the client didn't get it.
Right.
They didn't
Of
get
course
it,
not. I
you know.
can't imagine they would.
So then there was after that, I just had such peace of mind,
Good.
like you are as a leader, you have and you're showing that to your team. You're showing them the behavior that you're going to accept and the behavior that you're not going to accept. And they're learning from that. They're learning from that. And sheesh, I feel a responsibility to them. I want to show them what it's like to, create a culture where there's trust and safety and all of that. So
So
anyway.
did you see a rebound of your team and the culture internally at DMG after you made that stand with the client?
It was amazing. I will tell you, I was stressed financially. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is a big account. Or how are we going to make this up?" And at the time, I had a full-time employee, so I felt so responsible for her. He was my
Yeah.
first full-time employee, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't want to she should be in that position." So the beautiful thing is we lost that account, and in less than a month, we more than made up the income.
That's
It was
awesome.
incredible. And then on top of that, we regrouped as a team. And I'll never forget, we regrouped as a team after that, and they were just basically there was so much gratitude. They were like, "Nicole, we're so grateful that you," like, they were just like it was like a relief for them to no
Yeah.
longer have to work on it. And then we kind of like together as a team decided, you know what? We need to come up with our own internal success markers.
Huh?
We need to like come up with our own, because when you work in an agency, so much of it is like you're getting so much feedback from the client about what they like, what they don't like. And there's a lot of creatives on our team who are just like, that's their work and they're proud of it and all that stuff. So we decided we needed to come up with success markers to say, like, this is what we are going to define amongst ourselves as we are, these are our measures of success.
Yeah.
So
I
no
love it.
matter what's going on, no matter what the clients are saying or doing or whatever, if we can meet these success markers internally, I want you guys to all know, like, that's what I consider, that's what we as an organization consider successful. And the cool thing is we did it together. So like, before we had this like brainstorming session, and I was like, okay, we're going to come up with these success markers. And I was like, well, I could go in there and I can say, well, this is what I think our success markers should be. What do you guys think? And it was like the most beautiful experience, Jim. I come to this meeting, I'm like, guys, we need to come up with our success markers. And they just like blew me away with what they came up with. Like,
That's awesome.
they came up with things I would have never even thought of. Like, we enjoy the work. It brings like personal enjoyment, this work that we're doing, and just like the things they came up with. And so that was just like such a cool confirming. I guess it just gave me confirmation that when you respect your team enough to let them be involved in building that culture with
Yeah.
you, then you're going to create something that is way more amazing than what you could ever even dream or come up with on your own.
Absolutely.
And then they're like so invested in it. Oh, they they feel so respected and cherished that I just can't even, it's just amazing to see.
Well,
that
you've given them the chance because to me, a great leader always finds a way to connect the greater purpose of the organization, that mission and vision of the organization, to the jobs that the employees do on a day-to-day basis, right? But in your
yeah.
case, you empowered them to be part of that process of making that connection. So not only do they feel connected, but they defined what connected looks like real time with you guys, right? Am I hearing that
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And uh and I got to tell you, like, as a leader, and there's so many decisions that you have to make every day.
Yeah.
And selfishly, like, me being able to offload some of that decision making to the team is a relief. Like, it's nice to be able to it's like a shared responsibility in some way. I don't have to figure this out on my own. They can help figure it out, and then they have shared ownership in it, you
Yeah.
know? And for me, like, from a purely like just decision making, I suck at it sometimes and it's stressful for me. Like, truthfully, like, you have this image in your mind of an entrepreneur who's just like so decisive, right? They
Right.
just know what needs to happen all the time. My dad was like that. He was a very brilliant entrepreneur, very driven. And when he made a decision, man, it was like, this is it. He's going forward. He's going to do with it, Jim. And like, no going back. He never looked back, no regrets. And that is not me. I I am not that person. Like, when I have to make a difficult decision, it is really hard.
Yeah.
I need time to process it beforehand. I need time to process it after. And I do have times after I make a decision where I'm like, did I make the right decision? Was that really
Sure.
the right call?
Yeah.
And so for me, like, I've learned about myself, like, that is not a strength of mine to just be this very decisive, entrepreneur. So, like, I'm trying to cultivate a culture where, of course, there are certain decisions that I have to make as the business owner.
Sure.
But any chance I can push down decision making in the organization, I've just seen it like time and time again. Whenever I can push that decision making down, it really just lifts and empowers the team, and it releases a burden from me.
Absolutely. Well, great leaders aren't ever the smartest person in the room, right? They fill the room with people smarter than them that have skill sets that complement where they're weak, and it takes that knowledge of self-awareness to know where you're weak to be able to build those teams around you, right? And it sounds like that's exactly what you're doing. It's wonderful. I love it.
Well, it's a work in progress. I mean, I got to tell you, like, it requires a lot of humility, a lot of humility. Like, there are times, for example, when I get on, as you can probably tell, I like to talk. Okay. I'm very extroverted. When I'm in a meeting, I want to dominate. I want to share. I want to laugh. I want it to be so fun. And I want to, I like to be, in the center.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just, it's a weakness of mine. And so when I sometimes, like, there's been times when I get on meetings and with someone on the team, and they are just killing it. Like, I don't, like, I remember one time I was in this meeting, I didn't even have to say anything the whole time. It was
Really.
completely managed by them. Didn't say anything, and I'm gonna be honest, I got off that call and I felt guilty and bad. I was like, "I did not contribute anything to this conversation today."
Yeah.
And for a moment, like, my ego crept in, and it
Yeah.
was like this moment where I was like, "I didn't I wasn't showing value and blah, 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 blah," you know? I think as leaders, we have to check that all the time.
Absolutely.
We
Well,
have to
and I
check
think
it.
we're all conditioned to, at this point,
Yeah,
especially as entrepreneurs, the world of work that we've existed in before starting our journey as entrepreneurs generally is what value am I bringing to the table, right?
yeah,
And when you are that top line leader, you have to empower the people around you to be the ones to bring the value. Your value is that you brought these people together under one banner, right?
exactly. Yes, yep. It took me, like, I sat there and I thought about it, I was like, "Well, wait a second. I don't need to talk. It's better that I don't talk." Like, it's better, but, and that happens in other ways too, like, if, you have to choose humility, like, times, for example, when you delegate a task to someone on the team, and let's just say from my perspective, there's several scenarios. Okay. You
Mhm.
delegate or something to someone to the team, and there's three possible outcomes, in my opinion. The first is they completely knock it out of the park. They do it way better than you ever could do it.
Yep.
Okay. And you see it and you're like, oh man, they're way better than me. Humility. They're way better than me. That's great. The second outcome is they do it 80% as well as you do. Okay. So it's good enough to ship, but it's not as good as what you would do. Well,
Right.
that can be hard too because you want to get in there and be like, well, I want to change this and I want to change it this way and I want to do it this way. And you have to learn to be like, you know what? It's okay.
You
It's okay.
wanna
I can
perfect it.
ship it. You want to perfect it. Exactly. And that's humility to step
Yeah.
back and be like, you know what? It doesn't need to be my way. It's okay. We can ship this. They're going to learn.
Yeah.
I got to give them the chance to figure out and learn. So that's the second. The third outcome is they completely bomb it and they don't, and they get to 50% and you're like, well, oh, I clearly, there's two options. You'd be like, well, they're not getting it. There's something wrong here. They're not a good fit. Even if that's the case, even if they're not a good fit, you were the one that put them in that position.
Exactly.
You are responsible.
Yeah.
So that requires humility because you have to one acknowledge, hey, I didn't put the right person in the right seat on the bus. That's on
Yeah.
me. Or I need to do a better job of training this person. I clearly didn't explain this to them well enough. So
Right.
like all three of those scenarios, Jim, like if you really want to be a great leader, you have to learn to be humble and it's so hard. It's so hard. I
Absolutely.
wish that someone had the easy pill for it, man. That would be nice.
Well, and I what's there's a book by Jeffrey Pfeffer. It's called Leadership. Yeah, it's called Leadership BS, as in bologna sausage. And I'll tell you, it was an eye-opening book, right? So, as somebody who helps organizations and helps them develop leaders, I didn't realize what a racket the leadership development industry was, right? And how many
Mm.
people are looking for that easy pill, right? And so
Yeah.
leadership BS breaks down some very, very prominent thought leaders. And you can't see me, but I did air quotes when I said that. Um,
I
uh,
gotta check this book out.
it was an absolute game changer because it takes the principles from these thought leaders and dissects them into much more humanistic terms, right?
Mhm.
Um, but at the same time, saying, "Look, there is no easy pill for becoming a good leader. There's no amount of courses and mastermind groups and all of these things that you can take and do and participate in that's going to make you a great leader overnight. Leadership is just like any other skill. Uh it's like playing soccer or swimming or playing basketball or machining a part, right? It takes practice. Nobody becomes a machinist
Yeah.
overnight. Nobody becomes a great leader overnight. They need to work at the craft and they need to evolve with time.
Yeah.
So
So good.
phenomenal book. I highly recommend anybody out there listening read Leadership BS, but yet still hire me to come in and talk leadership.
Oh, man,
um,
absolutely.
so Nicole, you've got these, success markers for what success looks like internally at DMG. What are you looking for out of your clients? What makes an ideal client to go on this transformation, this marketing transformation journey with you?
Oh, great question. I think the first thing that we always look for is, do they have an openness and a willingness to wanna learn, right? Like,
Okay.
do they wanna learn and understand? Because usually when we start off an engagement, there's some training involved where we teach them kind of the basics so they
Sure.
can understand what it is that we're doing. Are they willing to do they wanna learn? Do they wanna understand how it works?
Mhm.
Um, if they wanna learn and understand how it works, I think that's a number it's great. are they willing to invest in someone on their team internally who can be the person to manage the marketing, right? We have found that the most successful companies who that we work with are those that already have an internal marketing person.
Okay.
So, they're like maybe they're the marketing manager or whatever, the brand manager, whatever.
Yeah.
If they're willing to invest in that person already, they're saying, "Hey, I believe in marketing. I'm willing to spend the money to do this and I'm willing to commit to it."
Got it.
They're putting their money where their mouth is.
Yeah.
And then are they willing to have sales and marketing work together? Like,
Ah.
you would be so surprised how siloed, well, you probably aren't surprised at all, but usually in manufacturing companies, sales and marketing is so siloed,
Yeah.
and trying to get those 2 together is like, sheesh, it's like, and I haven't figured it out. I really haven't figured out why it's so hard. Maybe it's just because it's the way things have always been done, and there's a little bit of maybe turf wars, they don't understand what each other does, but there's
I think that's sorry to interrupt, but I think
yeah,
that's exactly it. I think that
yeah,
people in the marketing department understand MQLs, where
mhm,
sales understands SQLs. They don't understand
yeah,
how to process, that marketing qualified lead into a sales qualified lead to be able to work together. I'm doing my job. Here are my goals. Here's my directive. On the marketing side and the sales side is saying the same thing, and those goals aren't necessarily always cascaded down from top level KPIs and goals to where you can find that connection, right?
you're absolutely right, and I think, again, it goes back to leadership. The teams that we've had the most success with, they have no problem bringing sales and marketing together and making sure sales and marketing are present in the meetings and
Yeah.
part of the strategy and involved from the beginning. And involved in, what the content is that's going to be created. That's huge.
Yeah.
You cannot create a great content strategy if you do not have your sales team involved in creating that with you. It's not going to happen. They're on the front lines hearing from customers. They know the questions customers are asking. If you want to scale your sales team, which is what great marketing does, you need to know and understand what's happening with the sales team and the customers that they're talking to. So it starts with like that top level leadership saying, hey, in order for this to work, we need sales and marketing to be working together
Yeah.
rather than separately and intentionally. It's as simple as just making sure that when you have your marketing and sales meeting, that marketing and sales are part of it. And that
Yeah.
there is an expectation that leadership expects that both those teams are going to contribute to that process rather than it being separate. And like from my experience, that's been the only way that it's been successful is if that the executive leadership team really like creates that environment. Once that environment is created, then it's like this aha moment where finally, like, and it takes time. Obviously, any change takes time. It's not going to be like overnight. They're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I get this." It takes time of like building that relationship together, right? That regular communication, and then over time, it's just part of it, and they get each other,
Yeah.
and they see that they're on the same side. We're not on different sides here. We're trying to help you win. We're trying to help each other win here. You
Yeah.
know.
I love it.
So anyway, that's what I think about
That's
that
awesome.
whole spiel.
I love it. So let's pivot a little bit, Nicole,
Yeah.
because I want to talk more about Tales of Misadventure. Tell us about this podcast, and what the idea is behind it. You take blessing or blunders and you turn them into blessings. You make lemons out of lemonade. So tell us a little bit about the podcast itself.
Well, the lemons into lemonade is like that's a reference to my sweet 8-year-old because I don't know what it is, Jim. She's obsessed with making lemonade.
Is she
Like,
really?
yes, she loves to make lemonade.
Does she have a
Like,
lemonade stand?
she has had one. We haven't had one in recently, but like if she doesn't necessarily care about baking. She just loves to like mix the lemon juice with the sugar in the water and just get the right. She's like this little scientist and she doesn't follow a recipe book. She just does it using her own, intuition and taste and everything. And it's really funny to see her process. Like she likes to tinker with it and figure it out. And
I love it.
anyway, I think that's a lot of like what the show is about is we love I'm so I can't tell you, like, entrepreneurship, it's, my dad was a successful entrepreneur, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, all three of them built three separate businesses successfully.
Wow.
Just a really cool, like, and I grew up seeing the impact that my dad's business had on employees, the community, and my grandfather owned a hotel right across the street from Disneyland, and I worked there when I was in high school. And it was
Really?
so remarkable to see, like, to be a part of that, to be a part of his vision. Like, he invested in this hotel, and it was a place where people would, come, they'd save up their, to come to Disneyland. It's like
Yeah.
their dream vacation, and seeing them come in the door and just the joy on their face and being part of that and knowing that, like my grandfather had kind of created this, like, I don't know, there's just something about entrepreneurship, the grit, the just tenacity, the vision that I just love, love, love. And the fact that it's not rainbows, it's not rainbows at all. It is a hard slog. I saw it with my dad. I saw it with my grandfather. People have this idea that, oh my gosh, you're an entrepreneur. You're just going to be rich and you just get to live on a yacht and you get to live in the Mediterranean and you never have to work. And that could not be further from the truth. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And the
Right.
beauty of being an entrepreneur is that it is ugly sometimes,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
you know? So the reason why I wanna do the show is because I wanted to kind of, like, really highlight and spotlight some amazing entrepreneurs and show, like, how they're building and how it's, you do make you're gonna fail all the time. And how are you tinkering? How are you like my daughter, she's like, making the lemonade and she's trying to figure out the right ingredients to the lemonade. Like, how are each of these entrepreneurs kind of like creating their own recipe for
I love it.
success, and it's always so different, and everyone's failures are different and experiences are different, and it's just, for me, really fun to just put a spotlight on them and show how they're building, what they're building, and that it's even though it can be really challenging and difficult, that the rewards and the joy are so incredibly wonderful on the other side of it.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about it is a lot of these entrepreneurs, when you're an entrepreneur, it can be pretty lonely. And nobody's patting you on the back, you know? Nobody's saying, "You did a good job today, Jim,"
Right?
"You really killed it." You don't have a manager that's giving you an annual review.
Right.
You're like in the dogfight just trying to survive every day. And
Absolutely.
so I love the idea of just being able to be able to celebrate them and be like, "You're doing amazing stuff." You may not see it because you're in it and it feels hard and tough sometimes, but what you're doing is pretty stinking cool.
I
So,
love
anyway.
that. No, I love that. I one of my big messages is everybody's going to fail. So fail fast, learn from your mistakes,
Yeah,
and move on. Right. And your
exactly.
podcast
Reduce the
kind of
stigma.
embodies that, and because as employees hear of leaders vulnerability, right? And they learn of
Mhm.
the mistakes that they've made, it humanizes them, and it
Yes.
makes those employees then gravitate and connect more with their leaders. So I love that. I love the whole idea of the podcast. Which episode? So for anybody who's listening who, and please, listeners, don't stop listening to this to listen to Tales of Misadventure. You can listen to both of them in any given week. Um, which episode would you say listeners today need to start their journey with you by listening to? Which one is going to grab them?
What a great question. Oh, that is so hard because
Isn't it?
every guest I've had has been so remarkable and such great insight. Oh, man.
So is it the type of thing that we should just start from the beginning and just push play and let it roll through to the next one, like we're binging a Netflix
Yeah.
series or something?
You could do that. You know what? The last one I published was a really special episode for me, so I'm gonna recommend that one first.
Okay.
I interviewed Marcus Sheridan, and he is a hugely successful marketer.
All right.
Hugely successful. He owns 3 companies,
Wow.
entrepreneur, and he's one of my marketing idols. So just the fact that he came on the show was just like a dream come true for me.
That's awesome.
And so I would recommend that. It's the last episode. It's called, I think, Transformational Communication with Marcus Sheridan. And the reason I recommend it is because, your podcast and what you do. And Jim, it's just so exciting what you're doing to try to help help companies create and cultivate a really amazing culture.
Yeah.
And one of the things he talks about in the podcast is how to listen, how to do a better job of listening, and how to coach people with questions
I love
so
it.
that they learn self-discovery rather than you telling them what they need to be doing. I think that ties in really well with, like, those the leaders that you and I probably respect and love the most are those that really inspire people to self-reflect and self-discover
Yeah.
solutions. So I would say Marcus Sheridan, and he has so many wisdom bombs in that episode. I just like, it was great. So yes, that's what I would say. But all of my guests they're just all amazing. So
Yeah, I didn't ask that question to
yeah.
diminish any other guest. I apologize. As I'm reflecting on the question, I'm like, wow, that was kind of a jerky question to ask.
No,
But
no, not at all.
yeah, uh, uh, yes, recommend, but not to diminish anybody else.
Yeah.
So I love it. That's where I'm going to start. I'm going on the road next week. And so I plan on I've already got a couple episodes. I don't know if Marcus was one of them that I downloaded, but I'm going to make sure that I've got that teed up and ready to go. Nicole, you're a thought leader in the marketing space, and so what kind of trends and shifts do you see in this
Mm.
intersection of marketing and culture, and how do you see it impacting the manufacturing industry?
Oh, such a great question. Okay. This is what I'm seeing. And this is what I'd say. AI, like ChatGPT,
Hmm.
is revolutionizing and changing the way that we communicate, the way we think, the way we work in ways that we can't fully understand. And we're starting to
Absolutely.
see the impact of that.
Yeah.
But the one thing that AI can never replicate is they can't replicate the unique parts of your brand as a business. And the
Ah,
only way that you as a company can stand out, because there's going to be a proliferation of derivative content that's just going to be out everywhere because of AI.
yep.
And so, from my perspective as a marketing, if you really want to stand out from the noise, if you really want to separate yourself, you have to lean into what is unique about you as a brand, what sets you apart in your industry, and not be shy about sharing it and sharing your voice and putting some humanity to your brand. So, what does that look like? That means that if you are on the executive team, if you're a subject matter expert, you need to get out there. You need to be on podcasts. You need to be on going to events. You need to be out there doing shows like this, putting yourself out there so that your people are going to see, know, and feel the humanity of your brand and what it is that makes you unique and different than everyone else.
Yeah.
And I think the manufacturing companies that can really lean into that, the executive team that can buy into that, like they're so shy about like all this stuff. Do it scared, man.
Yeah.
Like you built a company, you did it. I mean, you got it. People need to hear what you about you, all of that, your story, your history, and all of that stuff. So I would
Yeah.
say you got to lean into that and show the humanity, show the faces behind your company, and not just your executive team, but show your employees. Let them be the voice of the brand for you and create a culture where there's not a fear for them to share on social media or, like encourage them to
Yeah.
promote and showcase what it is that's so great about the work that you're doing and how you're serving your customers. So I
Yeah.
would say that's what I would recommend, is to just lean into that, and wherever you can, leverage your customers as part of that process. Really invest in your customers and creating a community with them so that you are building your biggest evangelists, like creating a way where you can turn your customers into your evangelists so that they are doing the selling for you.
Yeah.
So there's a really great book by Mark Schaefer. It's called Belonging to the Brand. And he talks all about how going forward, looking ahead, the most successful companies are going to be those that are leading with community. They're building communities within and among their own customers, and those customers are the ones that are out there selling, promoting, doing the work to bring more customers on board. And you see this on social media with like user generated content,
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. So as companies, you need to be thinking about, what can I do to turn my customers into evangelists for my brand? How can I create a community where they can help me sell, but then also help me innovate,
I love it.
leveraging your customers to help you figure out how you can make your products better, your services better, and creating a structure there for that, so that you have like a direct line of feedback with them, where you're hearing from them regularly what's working, what's not. Because the fact of the matter is that you never want to be chasing your competitor. You always want to be chasing your customer. If you're closer to your customer than anyone else, you are always going to be ahead of your competitor.
Yeah.
So, and I think if as companies, if you can create a situation there where you are staying really close to them through community, that's going to be.
I absolutely love it, Nicole. So I know that we're kind of up against some time here. What kind of parting thoughts, if you have any, would you like to share? Some wisdom bombs do you have for the listeners of the Manufacturing Culture Podcast?
I just think manufacture. This is going to sound really cheesy. Just love your people.
Yeah.
Just love them. Respect them. Let them have a voice in what it is that you're doing. So, what does love look like?
Right.
Give them a voice. Hear what they have to say. Listen to them and act on what it is that they're telling you. And if you really show them that respect and do that, you're just going to be mind blown with what they would what they would do for you. So, anyway,
I love it. That's
that's what I'd
great.
say.
Well, thank you, Nicole, very
Yeah.
much for your time. Folks, that's a wrap on this week's episode. What an absolutely riveting journey we've just taken with the effervescent Nicole Donnelly, diving into such an amazing world of manufacturing and its intersection of culture and marketing, and really the undeniable magic that comes from marrying the two. We've explored the vibrant tapestry of the industry and how it shapes uh, the marketing successes that exist out there. From turning business blunders into blessings to advocating for small manufacturers, Nicole's insights have painted a vivid picture of today's manufacturing landscape. If this conversation has sparked your curiosity, head over to the manufacturingculturepodcast.com website for more absolutely thrilling episodes. You'll discover industry leaders, innovators, change makers, all sharing their wisdom, experiences, and secrets to build a thriving manufacturing culture. Do you know somebody who could benefit from listening to Nicole's wisdom that we're sharing today in this episode? Share this episode with your friends, colleagues, and anyone passionate about manufacturing, culture, or marketing. As always, I value your feedback, so please take a moment to rate and review the show. Your support helps me bring more compelling stories, just like Nicole's, to the airwaves. And now, as the gears of this episode wind down, I will leave you with this. Have a great day and keep making things.